Let's talk about the Miami Dolphins and Tua Tagovailoa. This team is in a hard situation right now, and they're in a tough spot because they just exercised the fifth-year option with Tua Tagovailoa, and he is looking to get a massive contract extension with this team. Chris Greer, the general manager, said that he wants to keep Tua Tagovailoa here long term, and he wants him to continue to play good football with this team. And the problem is Tua Tagovailoa's numbers look good on the surface. 29 passing touchdowns to just 14 interceptions, and he led the league in passing yards with 4,624 passing yards. So you'll say, hey, give him his money. He's a top 5 quarterback with those numbers. That's not the case. Tua Tagovailoa has top 5 quarterback numbers, but he's not a top 5 quarterback. You look at his numbers against winning teams. He has thrown 8 touchdowns this season to 7 interceptions, and that's including that playoff game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I will say this. The last 2 years have been tough for Coach Mike McDaniel. Last season, you had to travel up to Buffalo with a backup quarterback in Skylar Thompson in the playoffs, and they were close in that game. Skylar Thompson played very well for the situation that he was put into. And this year, you were in a horrible situation again because you had to go to Kansas City, and it was the 4th coldest game in NFL history. The thing is, Mike McDaniel is a very good play caller. Tua Tagovailoa is a limited quarterback. A lot of people wonder why they throw so many screens at the line of scrimmage, behind the line of scrimmage, and they let Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle do the rest of the work. Tua Tagovailoa does not have the arm power that Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, and Patrick Mahomes has to throw the ball deep down the field on a consistent basis. Yes, he can do it here and there, but he can't do it over and over again. And Tua Tagovailoa in the big moments has not been that franchise quarterback for this team. He is 3-12 against playoff teams in the last 2 seasons. That's not good enough. And that does not scream to go out there and give this guy a massive extension. The problem is with the Miami Dolphins, they don't have a clear-cut better option right now. They're not going to go up and trade up in the NFL draft to draft a guy like Caleb Williams or Drake May. There is a possibility, but that's easier said than done. You're going to have to give up a lot of draft capital. You're going to have to give up some players as well. And you have these guys and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle who are 2 phenomenal wide receivers. You look at Tyreek Hill numbers this season. It was phenomenal. He's a video game character that's come to life. 1,799 receiving yards and 13 receiving touchdowns. And he missed time this season dealing with an ankle injury that he suffered against the Tennessee Titans. He was very well on his way to breaking over 2,000 yards this season. Again, similar to what he did last season with this team. He's been nothing but a huge success with this team. And you look at Jalen Waddle. He's been phenomenal as well. 1,014 receiving yards and 4 receiving touchdowns. So they have great weapons around Tua Tagovailoa. He's just not good enough. Raheem Mostert is a star running back in the NFL. 1,012 rushing yards, 18 rushing touchdowns. That led the league in rushing touchdowns. And he averaged 5 yards a carry. So the run game is not a problem with this team either. You look at Devon Achane, 997 scrimmage yards in total, 800 rushing yards, 8 touchdowns rushing, and he averaged 8 yards a carry. And he's one of the best running backs in the NFL when it comes to just being a one-cut back. He takes one cut, he's going straight to the house. No one can catch him in the open field, it seems like. So the run game isn't a problem. The offensive line can be worked on to be better, but they're not horrible. I look at Tua as a quarterback that's limited. You're not going to pump a lot of money into a guy that can't win with these weapons. And that's the truth. He can't win with the weapons that he has. And he has a bad injury history, even dating back to college. Part of the reason why he can't move around and extend plays is because he suffered a hip injury at Alabama, and he hasn't been the same quarterback since then. He was a phenomenal prospect the year before. He could throw the ball deep down the field. He's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL. That's one thing that Tyreek Hill is right about. His accuracy is insane. But when you put him in other climates of weather besides Miami and besides being in a dome, he's not the same quarterback. Look at what happened against the Kansas City Chiefs. Look at what happened against the Buffalo Bills. He's not the same guy. And against winning teams in the last 2 seasons that went to the playoffs, you can't be 3-12. You have to find a way to go out there and win those football games. That's what separates guys like Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow and Josh Allen away from guys like Tua Tagovailoa. I think Tua is a very good quarterback. He's just not good enough to go out there and get a 4 to 5 year extension with this team because they have other guys that they're going to have to pay with this roster as well. Remember, they made a lot of these moves before they had to go out there and pay Tua Tagovailoa. They acquired a Tyreek Hill because the cap space was not horrible with this team. They went and acquired to run Armstead because the cap space with this team was in a very good situation. You go out there and you pay Tua Tua Tagovailoa, like a top 5 to top 3 quarterback, it's not going to be easy to keep guys like Christian Wilkins around. It's not going to be easy to keep guys like Jalen Ramsey around either. And you look at all the moves that this team has made over the last couple of years, getting Bradley Chubb. And Bradley Chubb has been a solid pass rusher with this team, but to give up a first-round pick for him, that was a little too rich, in my opinion. I understand what they were trying to do. They just put all their eggs in a basket and say, hey, we're going to go for it. We have been rebuilding for so long. We finally have a true contender. Let's figure things out. I will give Chris Greer a lot of credit. He went out there and he put a track team around Tua Tagovailoa to see if he is the guy. Unfortunately, he's not. Now, last season, he dealt with some concussion issues because the offensive line was not good enough. And that's not all on Tua Tagovailoa. The first concussion was bad. He finished out the game against the Buffalo Bills. They won that game. The next week, on a Thursday night against the Cincinnati Bengals, it was not pretty with what happened on the field. He had to be stretchered out. And I'm happy that he was able to come back and play again that season, but he was not the same guy. The thing is with Tua, he's dealt with so many injuries, and he's a quarterback that's mostly stationary. You can only do so much with a quarterback like that in today's game. Most quarterbacks in today's game, they can move around, extend plays, and get guys going down the field. And I do feel like the play calling and the team as a whole has been held back because of Tua Tagovailoa, even though he is a good quarterback. When he is on his spot, when no one is near him, and when the offensive line's holding up, he can point guys a different direction without having to move around as much. And yes, you'll occasionally see him scramble for 10 to 15 yards and he goes straight out of bounds. But he's not a guy that's going to be able to move behind the line of scrimmage, similar to a guy like Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes or even Joe Burrow. He doesn't have that mobility to completely open up the offense, and it hasn't been able to work. That's why he has 8 passing touchdowns and 7 interceptions against teams with a winning record this season. And that's another reason to why they were only able to beat one team this season that had a winning record in the Dallas Cowboys, and they beat them by a field goal. Now, he did very good on that drive, but majority of their success came from the run game and came from Tyreek Hill in the back end. And he's not the same quarterback when Tyreek Hill is out, when he has to go against those winning teams as well. Against the New York Jets, yes, he had a great day with Jalen Waddle, but he's just throwing the ball up to Jalen Waddle and he's letting him do the rest. When you look at this offense, it's a lot of one read, get the ball out quick type of offense with Mike McDaniel. Yes, you'll occasionally see Tua scan around the field. That's when he has enough time. But against the blitz and when they are there on Tua and he can't move around, the offense is completely dead. They can't get things going if the run game is not there. And teams are not going to fear a quarterback that can't move around and can't push the ball down the field consistently. They're going to take away the middle of the field, similar to what the Los Angeles Chargers did last season. They took away the middle of the field, and he was not the same quarterback. And that's what teams started to do. That's what the Baltimore Ravens did a couple of weeks ago when they blew them out. They took away the middle of the field, and they forced Tua Tagovailoa to target the outside where his arm is not the strongest. His arm is not strong enough to continuously go out there and throw the out cuts over and over again without a cornerback going out there and just getting on the ball because it comes out late. And that's part of Tua Tagovailoa being limited as a quarterback. You cannot put all this money into Tua Tagovailoa and hope that your franchise will be okay and they could be a Super Bowl contender moving forward. They're not going to be. And I understand the defense had a lot of injuries. That's another thing that you should be concerned about as well. Bradley Chubb is a defensive end that has dealt with injuries in the past, even with the Denver Broncos. And he tore his ACL this season. Now, Mike McDaniel should have pulled him out the game against the Baltimore Ravens because there was only 3 minutes left and you're down by 30 plus points. You weren't going to come back in that game. But at the same time, this is a guy that's dealt with injuries with the Denver Broncos. Jalen Phillips literally retired and took a break from football at a point in time in his collegiate career because he dealt with so many injuries. Then he decided to come back and play. And he's a beast of a defensive end with this team, but he tore his Achilles this season. And just because medicine is upgraded and we hope that players can come back and play at a high level, that's not always the case. Look at Von Miller. He tore his ACL. He hasn't been the same with the Buffalo Bills. So you just can't bank on these guys coming back and being in tip-top shape. They have to get some depth on the defensive end, and I wish that it was a better answer at the quarterback position, but there's not. They're not going to go out there and find a better free agent than Tua Tagovailoa. So they're really stuck with him unless they make a major move to move up in the NFL draft to draft a rookie, a guy like a Drake May, or a guy like a Jaden Daniels or a Caleb Williams. You're going to be stuck in this situation with Tua Tagovailoa. And I'm not saying that Tua is a horrible quarterback. He's not a garbage quarterback, but he's a guy that's benefited a lot from Mike McDaniel's system. Look at Tua before Mike McDaniel and Tyreek Hill. He wasn't the same quarterback. He's benefited a lot from that track team around him and a lot from the play calling. I do think that you could put a lot of quarterbacks in this system, and they will have more success with the Miami Dolphins. The sad thing is you just can't go out there and get one of those guys because franchise quarterbacks do not grow on trees. And in my opinion, Tua Tagovailoa is not a franchise quarterback. He could put up the pretty numbers against bad football teams. He can go out there, he could throw 3 to 4 passing touchdowns against the Denver Broncos when that team is figuring out their defensive system. That's all fine and cool. But when you have to go against a team like the Baltimore Ravens and you give me 2 passing touchdowns to 2 interceptions, that's not good enough. That's a team that we're going to meet in the NFL playoffs. We're not going to meet a team like the Denver Broncos right now in the NFL playoffs. We're going to meet a team like the Kansas City Chiefs in the NFL playoffs. And I do understand early on in the season when they lost to them overseas, when they were playing in Germany, it wasn't all on Tua Tagovailoa because Tyreek Hill had that fumble. That went for a touchdown. They lost by a touchdown. But at the same time, Tua Tagovailoa missed some key throws in that game, especially on 3rd down and the last offensive play for the Miami Dolphins as well. He made a horrible read and the ball went to no one. Simple mistakes like that, Tua has to be better. It's a lot of mental errors with Tua. And you can't say, well, this guy is young, he's going to figure things out. This is year number 2 with Coach McDaniel, and he's been in the league for some years now. He needs to figure this stuff out. I think the Miami Dolphins are in a tough situation. They're not going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. They're going to always be a team that can make it to the NFL playoffs, and they could possibly get pushed past the first round if their defense can stay healthy. But you have a lot of guys on the defensive side that deal with injuries. And Xavier Howard is a phenomenal corner as well. He missed time towards the end of the season as well. And Jalen Ramsey missed time early on in the season dealing with a knee injury. They need to figure those things out. But I am worried about their pass rushers because your 2 best pass rushers, minus Christian Wilkins, who is up for a contract extension as well. Christian Wilkins was phenomenal this season. Minus him, you have your 2 best, Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips, who are always dealing with injuries. And Bradley Chubb has not played up to being worth that first-round pick that they spent on this kid when they made that trade to get him from the Denver Broncos. But let me know in the comment section below, what should the Miami Dolphins do with Tua Tagovailoa? Should they extend him to a 4 to 5 year contract, or should they try to just go into a little tight window and give him a 2 to 3 year deal? In my opinion, if he will not take the 2 to 3 year deal, you could do a franchise tag type of thing. Do what the then Washington Commanders did at the time, Washington Redskins did with Kirk Cousins, and just try to figure some things out from there. But let me know in the comment section below, what should they do with Tua Tagovailoa? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, when each and every last one, guys, stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Peace.